I want to make a real quick video talking about the Boston Celtics, right? Congratulations to the Boston Celtics. They won their 18 championships in a long time, right? It's been 16 years that the Boston Celtics, will finally hang up, one more banner, right? Which is called, their 18th title, right? Yeah, this is a video of me, congratulating to the Boston Celtics. Whether I hate the team or not, it just doesn't matter. At the end of the day, the Boston got their job done, as they should, beating the Dallas, 4-1, right, in 5 games. So the NBA is like very scripted, and they just keep getting crazier and crazier and crazier. I say that 2024 has been a super crazy year, and the Boston won it in the most scripted way, right? And I'll tell you why. Because there's something special about June 17th, and also the number 18 itself, right? The 18 just represent Boston. They not only won the 18th title, they beat the Dallas Mavericks by 18 points. They held the Dallas Mavericks 18 points in the first quarter, right? And also, they only lost 18 games in the regular season with the best record, right? Yeah, so the unfortunate news is that the Boston got to 18 before the Lakers. But yeah, the Lakers just keep claiming themselves as the best franchise in the NBA, and unfortunately, Boston got to 18 before the Lakers. Unfortunately, right? 4 years ago, the Lakers were like 16 to 17, and then they get to their 17th title. They just tied the Boston, but then, Boston got to number 18. And yeah, I feel like it's the right thing that the Celtics needs to celebrate their championship this year, because they're probably not going to win it again, despite, like how easy their runs is and all that stuff. They have the easiest cakewalk to the finals, right? In the finals, was like a very big disappointment. Another boring finals. And, the game was finished in 5 games again, just like last year, right? Except there was no Denver Nuggets, no Miami Heat, right? And it's the Celtics that got to the finals, right? So yeah, so because I didn't watch most of the game, but because I knew the series was going to be boring again, and yeah, holding Mavericks 18 points, being done by the Boston winning by 106 to 88, 80-point win, and I think ever since June 17, 2008 is when they first won their championship with with the whole squad and Doc Rivers, and now they won with Joe Mazzulla, and then they win exactly on that same date again, right? 16 years later, exactly 16 years on the clock, the Boston Celtics won their championship. So you want to know my opinion about this Boston Celtics, right? That's all you want to hear, right? You don't care about anything else, right? Okay, let me tell you about my opinion, right? This was not an impressive championship. And why is that? Well, for several reasons. One, because they have the easiest path to the final. And two, Kyrie and Luka has major issue, right? But I have to give Boston credit, they just shut them down the entire finals, and that's what they need to do. And I feel like the Boston has like a very huge weakness, They tend to choke, in really big moments, right? But in Game 4 just, exposed them. They should have just swept the Dallas Mavericks, right? I mean, you should never give your team a chance to win, because they could, make a huge comeback and then, stunt you, and then, you don't have reaction, and you lost all your momentum, and that other opponent has all momentum. And I'm glad the Boston did not choke this, man. Right? Yeah, so on top of that, aside from giving them credit, I have to, tell you why I did not like the Boston's winning, obviously, if I was a Laker fan, I would really hate this NBA championship. I would definitely hate it, and I'm not gonna watch this parade at Boston Celtics celebrating all that stuff, right? I cannot stand, their toxic fan base, but to the loyal fan base who are not racist, who are casual, and who keep everything 100 and who've been classic, you guys deserve this championship, right? Yeah, I just cannot stand, those toxic fan base of Boston. I feel like a lot of Boston fans are pretty much toxic, right? And nobody can stand against them, right? Nobody. So, yeah, the final MVP got to go to Jaylen Brown. Jaylen Brown has been a really important player. They got Drew Holiday, they got Derek White, they got a bunch of really good role players and really talented and all stuff. And it is one thing I don't like about the Boston Celtics is that they've technically fired who was it? Udoka, right? And there's a reason why, the Celtics also beat the Mavericks, aside from, Luka and Kyrie issues, because Jason Kidd got out-coached by Joe Mazzulla, right? I know Joe Mazzulla is an okay coach, but he's not a good coach, and he's not a terrible coach. He's just okay, right? That's just in my opinion, right? And I feel like I don't like Joe Mazzulla because now he stole all the hard work that Udoka put in, right? And this reminds me a lot of what happened, in 2015, about 9 years ago. I remember that Mark Jackson was the one that developed the Golden State Warrior. It was not Steve Kerr, right? For some reason, some teams are so weird. They just fire a really good coach, and then, the next head coach comes in. They're not good as the previous coach, and when they win the championship, they get all the credit, right? I don't feel like that's the right thing to do, right? Yeah, Joe Mazzulla did not make the Celtics this good, It came from Udoka, right? That's what I heard, right? Well, that's just life, like people can steal credits, people can steal, credit and here and there, right? Yeah, I mean, Joe Mazzulla did like several good jobs, make a couple adjustments, that helped the Celtics, right? I feel like if the Celtics has Udoka, maybe they would have won maybe a few more championships. At least one more championship, just to be honest with you, right? So, yeah. I feel like, the team that talk a lot of trash and the team, that acts tough when everyone is up. I remember Luka said this like 2 years ago when he faced against the Phoenix Suns in like Game 5, Game 6 or something like that. He said everyone acts tough when they're up. Luka... The only reason I dislike about Luka is that he talks too much trash, right? There's a lot of talking trash going on, The Denver Nuggets, they talk trash. The Timberwolves talk trash. And the Dallas Mavericks talk trash, right? And this is what happens when you talk too much, when you get too cocky, right? Your opponent, you're not well focused. You lose your concentration. And then the other team will find a way to beat you, right? And they motivate and they'll beat you, in a much more, embarrassing fashion, right? Yeah, this is exactly, what happened to Luka. I feel like the Dallas Mavericks should have not been in the finals, right? And why is that, right? Okay, you need to explain to me, like, why does the Dallas Mavericks should not be in the final? Because obviously there are, I think to order win the NBA championship, matchups all matter, right? Some team play well against third team, and some third team play well against third team, right? I'm pretty sure there's some team in the West, that could have beat the Celtics, right? I mean, which team could have beat the Celtics? Well, if I would have to pick the best matchup, it will probably be the Denver Nuggets, right? Unfortunately, they get eliminated, and that they make dumb moves in the offseason. That just cost them a season. They could have won this year championship, but they did not. They lost Bruce Brown and other key players and stuff. I prefer Denver over Boston, of course, If everybody hates the Boston Celtics, they probably would have put Denver there. But unfortunately, the Denver just lost to the Minnesota Timberwolves, right? So, you wanted me make a recap both of Dallas Mavericks and Boston Celtics, right? The only reason why the Boston Celtics has the easiest run to the final is because they face against the Miami Heat, right? They face every single team without their star for like the entire series or like half the series, which makes a lot of difference, right? They beat the Miami Heat in 5 games, right? They should have swept that team, to be honest with you. And I heard that this Boston Celtics team is the greatest team of all time. Nowhere even close, right? I mean, you let an injured team beat you like at least 1 game. That's not good, right? They should have swept. That Miami Heat team has no Jimmy Butler, of course, and they lost like Tyler Hero, and they lost like, I forgot what's that guy's name, but they lost like several of their key players, and of course that Heat team was injured, and they just barely, made out the in-season tournament, so the play-in tournament, right? And, the Boston, did not impress me, right? Again, they faced against the Cavaliers, with Donovan Mitchell, and I feel like even if the Cavaliers were fully healthy, they're still going to go nowhere, to be honest with you, right? They're still not going to win a championship, even if that entire team was healthy. I'd say that Donovan Mitchell missed the last few games, and they have other injury as well, so... And then everybody was just injured. I know that Boston doesn't face the Knicks and 76er, but Joel was injured, Julius Randle was injured on the Knicks and stuff. And then the Pacers, you're missing Tyrese Haliburton, and the Pacers was inexperienced. The only reason why they got to the Eastern Conference Finals because, the Bucks were injured. Giannis was injured, and also, Knicks was injured. I mean, yeah, and also, I forgot to talk about the Orlando Magic. The Orlando Magic did not go far like I expected because they don't have injury, but they're just probably too young, right? And next year, they should be better, right? So even if the Boston face Orlando Magic, Orlando Magic cannot stop them. They're not going to do anything about it. So, and then let's go to the, Western Conference of how the Dallas Mavericks... I thought that the Dallas Mavericks had a tougher path to the finals, but I know that usually, the team that take the tough path, that will most likely win championship, but that's not always a guarantee because matchup really matters, and Mavericks are a terrible matchup to the Boston, right? I heard that Kyrie was like 10 or 13, lost like 10 to like 13 games in a row to the same Boston Celtic team, right? I feel like Kyrie is a big kryptonite to the Boston Celtics, right? Even though Kyrie's a very good player, right? So let's say what happened to the Dallas Mavericks, right? The Dallas Mavericks facing as a Clipper. Everybody knows Clippers are always a pretender, right? They did not have Kawhi Leonard, and they somehow stole 2 games from the Mavericks. And that already exposed the Mavericks of why they shouldn't be in the finals, right? I know that Kawhi Leonard is always a really bad matchup versus Luka. Kawhi owes Luka, right? I mean, if Kawhi was healthier and he was in better shape, then he would have beat Luka probably in 7 games, right? 6-7 games, and then the Dallas Mavericks obviously went to the Oklahoma City Thunder, and that matchup seems to be, a little bit easier because the OKC Thunders are just too young, But I don't think the Mavericks are going to be better than the Thunders next year, to be honest with you. Yeah, the OKC Thunders are just too immature, Even though I like that team, but I call them immature because of lack of experience, right? Experience matters most, and then, they face against a Timberwolves, that has Rudy Gobert unplayable. This is why a lot of people don't respect Rudy Gobert because he's just very unplayable, and he is a very bad defender, right? And this is why, the Mavericks easily, handle the Timberwolves in like 5 games. The reason why, and there's no other team that can, beat the Celtics. I don't trust the Timberwolves. The Timberwolves they're probably going to get swept by the Boston, or maybe they just win 5 games, just like the Mavericks, right? Yeah, people will agree with me. Yeah, because of this Rudy Gobert problem. Anthony Edwards is immature, and Karatal shows here and there, right? I mean, they got lots of bigs and stuff, but I think there's two advantages of like why did Boston beat the Mavericks, right? It's the size, they kept the core, and they got experience, right? I feel like, you remember that this same team actually went to the finals 2 years ago, right? And then they got beaten by the Golden State Warrior, right? The Golden State Warriors are more experienced than the Boston Celtic, right? I feel like when you go to the final, the pressure is all different stuff. Maybe this is why a lot teams, some teams they play better, in certain conference, like the first round, second round, or conference finals. Did they didn't final? The reason why, because the pressure is like different. That I can tell a difference, right? The conference final was like really big pressure, and I know the Mavericks could not handle it, right? The Mavericks did got very lucky. I have to be honest with you, right? I mean, let's just say that the Timberwolves didn't make out the series and the Denver Nuggets somehow beat them. I would have think the Mavericks would have lost to the Denver Nuggets, to be honest with you, right? But it's not going to be easy. I think that the Nuggets could have beat the Mavericks in like 6 or 7 games, right? So, yeah, and the only reason why the final was getting out the Western Conference Final was not as tough as last year because the Denver Nuggets are not there, right? And Denver Nuggets do have some flawless, I'd say that the Timberwolves was their biggest, kryptonite. If they would beat Timberwolves, they would have beat the Mavericks, right? Some may agree, some may disagree, right? And then when the Clippers were fully healthy, they could keep the series a lot closer, right? Then, let's say the Clipper beat the Mavericks, and I don't think the Clipper will not match up well against Boston again. The Clippers are bigger choker. They just never get out the second round if everything goes the regular way. Clippers are not going to get out the second round ever, right? They probably will lose to the Thunder, right? So yeah. Anything else I gotta say? With the Celtic, right? And because the Celtic has the easiest way to win championship, and Kyrie folded, Luka folded, Jason Kidd did not do a good job, and this is why Jason Kidd has lost several jobs. He lost his job. He got fired with the Milwaukee Bucks, and I forgot what other team he coached with, right? But yeah, people want to say that the Boston Celtic had an easy chance because they're more talented than the Mavericks, right? But I cannot find, Luka is just not disciplined enough. He just whines, complains a lot. That's exactly what happened to Devin Booker, 3 years ago. He reminds me a lot about Devin Booker. He's not like any different. Devin Booker complains and whines a lot, which is why he never, won the 2021 NBA championship. And then, he lost to Luka by himself. There was no Kyrie, in the most embarrassing fashion way. I say that, the team that whines, I say that player that whines, if they go to the final, they're going to look very immature, and then they will have a very hard time, and they will struggle when it comes to really big moment and stuff, right? Yeah, so congrats to the Boston Celtic. They got the job done, and yeah, and this really sends a message to the Lakers, right? The Lakers keep claiming they're the better team than the Boston Celtic. I know that the Boston Celtic has, a backup, evidence of why they're better than Lakers because they have more championship, right? The Lakers act like they're the best franchise, history. I mean, now, the Lakers really have to work their butt off, if they want to beat the Celtics in number of championship, right? Now they have to win 2 more championships to overcome, Boston Celtic, right? Because Boston's sitting at 18 and Lakers are sitting at number 17 still, right? I mean, who will get to, championship number 19 first? Will it be the Celtics or will it be the Lakers, right? I know that in the future that, the Celtics will probably not be the best, will be the franchise, will not have the most championship. It will be the Lakers, right? I'd say the Lakers and the Boston Celtics are going to be the biggest rivalry. If the Lakers somehow miracle went to the finals, then it'll just be a big real rivalry. Lakers versus Boston, right? The Celtics, the Los Angeles Lakers, right? I mean, the Lakers. So this is like a really big wake-up call to the Lakers. Like, they better do something about it. They better build the right roster, get the right player, get the right roster, get the right coaches, do everything correctly, right? I feel like the Lakers really need to stay focused and really need to, take a lot of action, because the Boston Celtics are now ahead of you again, right? But yeah, and I have to tell you, like, why, the 2020 eras, and NBA championship are such a fluke, right? I say that the Boston Celtics wasn't easy path to championships because, all the injuries and, the Mavericks choke all the way. And I overheard that Luka can also get injured, but it's not a reason. You have to play through injury. I feel like, that's why Luka didn't play best. I don't know exactly why. I don't know what's wrong with Luka, but he claimed that he has injury, right? But then, game 3, Kristaps Porzingis was missed, and they beat the Mavericks, right? The Boston Celtics were not unbeatable, it's the Mavericks' fault that, didn't get their job done, right? So you can't make injury as an excuse, because Boston also have injuries too, I feel like the Boston, has bigger size than the Mavericks, That's exactly what the Denver Nuggets did to the Heat. The only reason why the Denver Nuggets dominated the Miami Heat last year is same way as the Celtics dominate the Mavericks is because of the size. Size matter a lot. They got Kristaps Porzingis. They got really good player. They got Drew Holiday, very underrated. If you got really big players, that are playable, then this is how you win championship, right? It's not about small ball. It's about going, big and going inside the paint, right? Yeah, so I wonder, what will happen, in the off season, right? But yeah, that's gonna get interesting. So yeah, so I would say that the Boston Celtics had a pretty easy run. But this is the only reason why, people do not respect the 2020 era, and there's a lot of, real NBA fans that do not respect the Boston Celtics championship, right? Like I already explained, right? So, in my opinion, the 2024 championship was very weak to me, right? I think the NBA championship has gotten weaker ever since, 2016. And why is that? Because, weak era, and also, like, team don't want to be competitive. They have to form, like, super team, just dominate all stuff. I say that the Golden State Warrior, the 73-9 Golden State Warrior, ever since, they got Kevin Durant, they were, like, looking very unstoppable, but not until, like, 2019, where they have all the injuries, all stuff, and then Toronto won, that was a great moment. 2017, 2018, the Warriors was, like, very well overstacked, and the competition was pretty bad, They technically, like, sweeping the Cavaliers, right? LeBron James. And then, whether I'm a Lakers fan or not, I would say that the 2020, championship was a bubble rake, was like a fluke, a big fluke, a Mickey Mouse rake, right? And then you got 2021, like, everybody was, the Bucks won, a championship in a hospital rings. And then 2022, Golden State Warrior, I get it, it's not that impressive, because they face against the inexperienced Boston. the Boston barely, like survived the final. I say that the conference was tougher is because, I remember that Boston was like up double digit, then they just choked again and they just got lucky. They entered the final. The Heat would have just eliminated Boston, in 2022. They almost did it again, But then you're facing a team that never been in the final, and then you're facing against, the Warriors. So I say that championship was a bit tougher. Than 2023 was another fluke because, the Denver Nuggets just beat a bunch of nobodies. And then, you got the Miami Heat. The East was injured again, like the Miami Heat beat the Boston Celtics, they beat, the injured Knicks, and they beat them against, the injured, or fraudulent, Bucks team, right? And then, the Heat was just way too small and just, way too weak to compare to Denver Nuggets. Denver Nuggets was a much stronger team, so that's why, the championship run was still not that impressive, right? In the 2024, I feel like there's just too much injuries going on, and also, players don't play as tough as they did, back in, tougher era, which is why a lot of championship do not seem very impressive to me, right? They've been looking very weak, right? So so far you saw like 5 championship and in the 2020 era. Which one's the weakest? I say that the 2020 was the weakest one because if it wasn't for COVID, then LeBron James would not have gotten ring, right? Obviously, everything was different, there was no crowd, so it was a lot easier on LeBron James stuff. I'm not hating on LeBron, but yeah, a lot of people call it Mickey ring. Like, I did not realize how easy was championship it is, but I just watch it, right? I feel like, yeah, like the LeBron James just won, another fluke ring. It just doesn't, that championship was actually weaker than, this Boston's, weak championship, right? I say that the 2008, Boston Celtic was a lot more impressive than comparing, to this, 2024 Celtic. Because in 2008, I get they faced against an injured Laker team, but they had Kobe Bryant, all that stuff. Kobe Bryant, is way better than LeBron James, to be honest with you, right? Yeah, because in the 2020 championship, playing in the bubble ring, you technically play against nobody, right? So everything was just different. There was no pressure and all that stuff, and they had to take extra breaks and stuff. Like, I just gave you a few reasons like why 2020 was an easy championship, but I don't know the full detail of it because it was like 4 years ago, right? Yeah, so tell me, like if people dislike this video, they disagree. If people like this video, they disagree what I'm saying, and what I'm saying is true, so I have to stay as truth as possible, right? So yeah, but yeah, people wanted Jason Tatum to win MVP. No, but Jaylen Brown was the biggest MVP of this year, right? And before I end this video, I wanted to make a big congratulations to Jaylen Brown. The Boston Celtics did a great job, shutting down Kyrie Irving and Luka Doncic, right? They did a good job, but yeah, like I said, so because I feel like Luka and Kyrie are a bit too small, right? If they play against the Nuggets or the Timberwolves without Rudy Gobert, if the Timberwolves did not have a Rudy Gobert issue, then the Celtics, they can beat the team, but it'll be very tough. It'll be a lot more tougher battle compared to to the Dallas Mavericks, right? Because of the size, right? The Timberwolves got like 3 bigs on their team, and the Nuggets, they also got their bigs too. So this is why Nuggets may have some impressive wins, but not all the wins are impressive. That I agree, right? So yeah, it's just common sense, like size matter a lot in sport, right? Especially basketball, or other sport, right? But there's some sport, like where size will not matter, right? So end of this video here, and thank you for listening to your 30 minutes video, and bye bye.